I was 17 when I learned what burning flesh smells like. Sweet. Wrong. A scent that crawls into your lungs and never leaves. The fire had already swallowed half the house by the time I stumbled down the stairs, choking on smoke that tasted like the end of everything. My sister's scream cut through the roar of flames. Sharp, then silent. Too silent. I tried to reach her bedroom, but the heat drove me back, blistering my palms against the wall. Nari! I shouted her name until my throat bled. She didn't answer. My father's voice came from somewhere below, hoarse and breaking. Daishim, run! The ceiling collapsed before he could finish. I don't remember falling. I don't remember crawling through the smoke or the way my knees scraped raw against broken glass. What I remember is my mother's hand, limp and pale, reaching out from beneath a burning beam. Her wedding ring caught the firelight. Gold turned to ember. I reached for her. Deshima! The voice came from behind me, rough, urgent. Hands grabbed my shoulders, dragged me backward even as I fought to stay. No, no, Yama. They're gone. My uncle's face appeared through the haze, soot-streaked and grim. Kang Tae-jun, my father's younger brother. We have to go, now. I can't, she's right there. She's gone. His grip tightened, pulling me toward the shattered window. And if we don't leave, you will be too. The house groaned, structure giving way. He shoved me through the opening, glass tearing at my clothes, my skin. We hit the ground outside just as the second floor caved in, flames exploding skyward in a column of heat and ash. I tried to go back. He held me down, arms locked around my chest while I screamed and clawed and broke apart. Let me go! Let me... Listen to me. His voice cracked, low and shaking. The Yoons did this. I stopped struggling. The Yoon pack, he continued, each word deliberate. Their father ordered the hit, burned your family alive because your father refused to bow to his control. The world tilted, my vision blurred. Smoke or tears, I couldn't tell. Why? Because they're monsters. He pulled me closer, his heartbeat steady against my back. The old man built an empire on blood, and his sons, the Yoon twins, will inherit every drop of it. If they know you survived, they'll come for you too. Embers drifted through the air like dying stars. Never forget, he whispered. Never forgive. I didn't. 5 years later, I was standing in a cramped safe house in Koreatown, tightening the straps on a mask that had become more familiar than my own face. You're fidgeting. I glanced up. Uncle Tae-jun leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, watching me with the same steady gaze that had pulled me from the fire. Older now, gray threading through his hair, but still the only family I had left. I'm fine, I said, adjusting the edge of the mask where it pressed against my jaw. You said that last time. He stepped closer, eyes narrowing. And you almost got caught. Almost doesn't count. It does when they're hunting you. He reached out, checking the seal on my scent blockers with practiced efficiency. The adhesive patches sat cold against my neck, chemical sharp and wrong. They had to be. If the Yoon twins caught even a whisper of what I really was. Omega, the designation I'd hidden for 5 years. The vulnerability that would get me killed if anyone in their organization discovered it. The blockers are fresh, I said. They'll hold. They'd better. His hand lingered on my shoulder. Tonight's different, Daishima. The twins will be there personally. My pulse jumped. You're sure? My contact confirmed it an hour ago. He moved to the table, spreading out a map of the port of Long Beach. His finger traced a route to a warehouse on the eastern edge. Major shipment. High value. They won't trust anyone else to oversee it. I studied the layout, entry points, exits, blind, spots. What kind of shipment? His expression darkened. Does it matter? It didn't. Not really. The old man was dead, had been for 3 years, but his sons carried on his legacy. Whatever they were moving tonight was built on the same foundation of blood and ash that had consumed my family, on power stolen while the rest of us burned. The pull, I said quietly. It's been stronger lately. Taejun's jaw tightened. What pull? I don't know how to explain it. I pressed a hand to my chest, where something had been aching for weeks, a strange hollow throb that intensified whenever I got close to them. It's like like something's trying to drag me toward them. Fear, he said immediately. Your instincts recognize the threat. It doesn't feel like fear. Then it's rage. He gripped my shoulders, forcing me to meet his eyes. You've been carrying this for 5 years, Daishim. Your body remembers what they took from you, what their father took. That's all it is. I wanted to believe him. You've worked too hard to hesitate now, he continued. You've gotten close to them, learned their patterns, dismantled their operations piece by piece. Tonight, you finally strike at the source. And if something goes wrong, then you run. His voice softened. Like I taught you. I nodded, swallowing against the tightness in my throat. He released me, stepping back. The twins think they're untouchable. They've been hunting you for months, and they still don't know who you are. Don't give them the chance to find out. I won't. Good. He handed me a small earpiece. I'll be monitoring from here. If I tell you to abort, you abort. Understood? Understood. He studied me for a long moment, something unreadable flickering across his face. Then he pulled me into a brief, tight embrace. Your father would be proud. The words lodged in my chest like shrapnel. When he pulled away, I grabbed my jacket, checked my weapons one final time, and headed for the door. Daisham. I paused, glancing back. Make them pay, he said quietly. I stepped into the night, mask in place, heading toward the car that would take me to the port of Long Beach. Tonight, I end this. The thought burned through me as I drove, city lights blurring past. Somewhere in the distance, the ocean whispered against the docks. The air tasted like salt and gasoline, and something else. Something I couldn't name. A scent that made my chest ache. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, forcing it down. The warehouse loomed ahead, dark and waiting. I killed the engine 2 blocks out and moved on foot, slipping between shipping containers like a shadow. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. The bond, the pull, grew stronger with every step, a current dragging me forward even as my mind screamed to turn back. I didn't. The warehouse doors stood partially open. I slipped inside. The warehouse smelled like rust and ocean brine and something darker I couldn't place. I moved through the shadows between shipping crates, boots silent against concrete slick with salt residue. Voices echoed from deeper inside, low, clipped, speaking in Korean. My pulse hammered against my ribs as I crept closer, staying low, keeping to the blind spots I'd memorized from the blueprints. The pull in my chest tightened like a fist closing around my lungs. I pressed my back against a metal container, forcing myself to breathe slowly. The scent blockers itched against my neck, adhesive, sticky with sweat. They were holding. They had to be holding. Status report. The voice cut through the warehouse, sharp and cold. I froze. 50 feet ahead, past a gap between containers, I could see them, the Yoon twins. Yoon stood with his arms crossed, scanning a tablet one of his men had handed him. Taller than I'd expected, broader. Dark hair pulled back, sharp jawline catching the overhead lights. Everything about him screamed control. The way he held himself, the way his men straightened when he spoke. Kyujin paced beside him, restless energy barely contained. Same height, same build, but where Ihyun was ice, Kyujin burned. His gaze swept the warehouse constantly, cataloging threats, calculating exits. A predator's instinct wrapped in expensive clothes. I'd seen photos, surveillance footage, reports. Nothing prepared me for them in person. The air felt heavier where they stood, charged with something that made my skin prickle. Authority, power, the kind of presence that bent rooms to their will. Shipments secure, one of the guards reported. Ready for transport. Double-check the manifests, Ihyun said without looking up. If there's a discrepancy, there won't be. Kyujin's voice was rougher, impatient. We've been over this twice. Then we'll go over it a third time. The pull intensified, dragging at something deep in my chest. My hands trembled. I clenched them into fists, nails biting into my palms. This was wrong. Everything about being this close to them felt wrong. My body wanted to move forward, to step into the light, to... I shoved the thought down, hard. They murdered your family. The reminder steadied me. I reached for the small camera in my pocket, angling it through the gap to capture proof of whatever they were moving. My fingers brushed the edge of a crate beside me. Metal scraped against concrete. The sound was barely audible. Kyujin's head snapped toward me. "Movement," he said. "East side." My heart stopped. "Probably rats," one of the guards muttered. "Check it anyway." I was already moving, slipping backward through the maze of containers as footsteps pounded closer. The earpiece in my ear crackled. "Daishim!" Uncle Tajun's voice tense. "What's happening?" "Compromised," I whispered, rounding a corner and pressing myself flat against cold metal. "They're coming. Abort! Get out! Now!" I couldn't. The exit was on the other side of the warehouse. Past them, past the guards spreading out to search. My only option was deeper into the labyrinth of cargo. I ran. Behind me, shouts erupted. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness, searching. My boots hit the ground faster, quieter, weaving between containers and pallets stacked 3 high. The layout twisted in my mind, left, right, straight, another left. A guard appeared ahead of me. I didn't hesitate. My knife was already in my hand. He reached for his radio and I slammed into him, driving the blade into his shoulder. He went down hard, gasping, and I kept running. "Target's armed," someone shouted. "Moving southeast." More footsteps, more voices, the net closing in. I vaulted over a low crate, landing in a crouch, and spun toward what should have been an exit. A chain-link fence blocked the way. Locked. Damn it. I turned back, searching for another route, and that's when I felt it. Them. The Oinamayo. Twins had joined the chase. I didn't see them, didn't hear them, but the pull in my chest yanked sideways, sharp and insistent, like a compass pointing north. They were close. Too close. I bolted left, breath burning in my throat. My side hit the edge of a container as I rounded a corner too fast. Pain flared, but I didn't slow. Couldn't slow. A figure stepped into my path. Kyujin. I swung the knife. He caught my wrist mid-strike, twisting hard. Bone ground against bone. The blade clattered to the concrete. "Got him," he said into his comm. I drove my knee toward his ribs. He blocked, shoving me backward. I stumbled and something sharp caught my shoulder. Another guard, blade flashing in the dim light. Heat bloomed across my skin, wet and immediate. Blood. I kicked out, catching the guard in the chest. He fell back, and I ran again, clutching my shoulder. The scent blockers pulled at my neck, one edge peeling away from the dampness spreading across my shirt. No, 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 no. Ion appeared ahead, cutting off my escape. Behind me, Kyujin closed in. Trapped. My back hit a concrete pillar. Blood dripped down my arm, hot against cold air. The twins stopped 5 feet away, weapons drawn, eyes locked on me. "Surrender," Ion said, calm, final. "Go to hell." Kyujin moved first, faster than I expected. I ducked his grab, but Ion was already there, catching my jacket and slamming me back against the pillar. Air punched out of my lungs. My mask shifted, fabric loosening. Kyujin's hand reached up. "Let's see who you really are." He ripped the mask away. Everything stopped. The scent blocker on my neck had torn completely, adhesive failing, and my scent flooded the space between us. Omega, blood, and something else. Something that hit all 3 of us like a shockwave. Mate bond. The world narrowed to 3 heartbeats, suddenly synchronized. My chest ached, pulling toward them so hard I couldn't breathe. Kyujin's pupils dilated, black, swallowing brown. Ion's grip on my jacket loosened, fingers trembling. "What?" Kyujin's voice cracked. The bond wrapped around us, undeniable and vicious. Every instinct in my body screamed to move closer, to touch, to submit. I wanted to kill them. I wanted them to never let go. Ion stared at me, horror and recognition twisting his expression. "You're Omega," Kyujin finished, barely a whisper. My legs gave out. Ion caught me before I hit the ground, his hands burning against my skin. The bond roared between us, a living thing that didn't care about blood or revenge, or the 5 years I'd spent hating them. "No," I choked out. "Not you. Anyone but you guys." Kyujin knelt beside us, close enough that I could feel the heat of him. His scent wrapped around me, cedar and smoke, and something achingly familiar. Home. I shoved against Ihyun's chest, but my body wouldn't cooperate. The bond held me there, trembling and bleeding and breaking apart. This isn't possible, Ihyun said, but his hands tightened on me anyway. Kyujin reached out, fingertips brushing my jaw. The touch sent electricity down my spine. It's him, he said. Our mate. The enemy they'd been hunting. The weapon I'd become. Fated to the monsters who destroyed everything. The SUV smelled like leather and blood in them. I pressed myself against the far door, as far from the twins as the back seat allowed. My shoulder throbbed where they'd wrapped it. Rough, efficient, someone barking orders in Korean to bring medical supplies before we left the warehouse. The makeshift bandage was already soaking through. Kyujin drove. Eon sat beside me, silent, staring out the window at the port of Long Beach disappearing behind us. The 110 freeway stretched ahead, cutting through the heart of Los Angeles toward the hills. Neither of them had spoken since we got in the vehicle. Neither had I. The bond hummed between us, a living current that made my skin too tight. Every breath Ihyun took, I felt it. Every shift of Kyujin's hands on the wheel sent electricity down my spine. I hated it. I hated them. I hated that my body didn't care. The earpiece was still lodged in my ear, hidden beneath blood-matted hair. Taejun had gone silent after the chaos, erupted, but I could feel it there. A small, hard reminder that I wasn't alone in this, that someone was listening. Who are you? Ihyun's voice cut through the silence. Low, controlled. Nothing like the shock that had fractured his expression when the bond hit. I didn't answer. We can do this the easy way, Kyujin said from the front seat, eyes meeting mine in the rearview mirror. Or we can do it the hard way. Your choice. You don't get to give me choices. My voice came out rougher than I intended. Not after what you did. Eon's jaw tightened. We don't even know who you are. Kang Daeshim. The name landed like a gunshot. The SUV swerved slightly before Kyujin corrected. Ihyun went rigid beside me. Kang, he repeated slowly. Son of Kang Minjun, brother of Kang Nari, nephew of Kang Taejun. Each name tasted like ash. The family your father burned alive 5 years ago. Silence, heavy, suffocating. We didn't know, Kyujin said finally. I laughed, bitter and broken. Of course you didn't. Our father kept a lot of things from us, Eon said, voice tight. Including that. Convenient. It's the truth. Your truth, I shot back, built on the same foundation of blood and lies he left you. You think I don't know what you've been doing? The trafficking operations, the territory grabs, the families destroyed when they don't fall in line. We've been dismantling it. Ihyun turned to face me fully, and the movement brought him close enough that I could feel his heat. Everything our father built, every dirty deal, every pipeline, every alliance forged through violence. We've spent 3 years tearing it apart. Why should I believe you? Because if we wanted to continue his legacy, you'd already be dead. The words hung between us, cold and final. Kyujin pulled off the freeway, winding up into the Hollywood Hills. Houses grew larger, gates higher, the city sprawling below us in a sea of lights. We stopped. In front of a compound that looked more like a fortress. High walls, security cameras, guards posted at intervals. They dragged me inside. The room they locked me in was obscene. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Los Angeles. Furniture that probably cost more than my entire safe house. A bathroom with marble counters. A cage wrapped in luxury. Kyujin shoved me into a chair. Sit. I'm not. Sit, or I'll make you sit. I sat. Eon returned with a proper medical kit, setting it on the table with controlled precision. Take off your jacket. No. You're bleeding through the bandage. Either let me treat it or pass out from blood loss. I don't particularly care which. I peeled off the jacket, hissing when the fabric pulled at the wound. Eon's hands were steady as he unwrapped the makeshift bandage, his touch clinical, detached, until his fingers brushed bare skin and the bond flared hot enough to steal my breath. He froze. So did I. This is insane, I whispered. Yeah. Kyujin leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching us with an expression I couldn't read. It really is. Yeon pulled back, jaw clenched. The wound isn't deep, You'll heal fast. Because Omega healing was accelerated. Because biology didn't care that I wanted nothing to do with them. He cleaned the cut with antiseptic that burned, then wrapped it properly. The whole time neither of us looked at each other. But I felt every point of contact like a brand. When he finished, he stepped back quickly. Too quickly. "You can't keep me here," I said. "We can't let you go." Kyujin pushed off the wall. "You know too much. About us, about our operations, about the bond." "Yeah, that too." "If word gets out that the Yoon heirs found their mate," Eon said quietly, "and that mate is the son of a family our father destroyed, it creates a vulnerability we can't afford. Not with the pack politics in Los Angeles as unstable as they are." "So what, I'm your prisoner now?" "You're our problem," Kyujin corrected, "and we need time to figure out what the hell we're supposed to do about it." "I know what I'm supposed to do about it." I met his eyes. "Kill you both and finish what I started." Something flickered across his face. Not fear. Something worse. Hurt. Eon's expression stayed cold. "The door locks from the outside. Don't bother trying the windows. They're reinforced, and there are guards posted below. If you need anything, I need you to let me go." "That's not happening." They left. The lock clicked into place, final as a coffin closing. I stood, moving to the window. The city glittered below, indifferent and endless. Somewhere out there, Taijun was waiting, listening. My hand moved to the earpiece, ready to pull it out, when his voice crackled through. "Daishima." My blood turned to ice. "I heard everything. The bond. What they said about their father." A pause, heavy with something I couldn't name. "They're lying to you, just like their father lied to everyone." My hand trembled against the earpiece. "You have one chance to finish this. Tonight, while they think you're weak. Kill them both, or everything your family died for means nothing." The door handle turned. Someone was coming in. The door swung open, and I knew I was about to break every promise I'd ever made to the dead. Both twins entered. Ihyun carried fresh bandages and antiseptic. Kyujin held scissors and gauze. Their eyes found me immediately, and the bond flared hot enough to steal my breath. Uncle was still listening. The earpiece sat lodged in my ear, hidden beneath blood-matted hair. I couldn't remove it without drawing attention. Couldn't warn Taijun that I was about to shatter under the weight of biology I didn't ask for. "The bandage is soaked through," Ihyun said, setting supplies on the table. "We need to change it. I can do it myself. You can barely lift your arm." Kyujin moved closer, and cedar smoke wrapped around me like a drug. "Let us help." "I don't want your help." "Too bad." Eon's hands found the zipper of my jacket. I should have stopped him. Should have fought. But the bond had turned my body into a traitor, and when his knuckles brushed my collarbone, I went, still. The jacket slid off. Then my shirt pulled carefully over the wounded shoulder. Cool air hit bare skin. Both of them froze. I was half naked in front of the men I was supposed to kill, and the way they looked at me, hunger and restraint fighting for dominance, made something low in my stomach clench. "Sit," Eon said, voice rougher than before. I sat. Kyujin knelt in front of me, and Hyun moved behind, trapped between them. The bandage peeled away slowly, adhesive tugging at torn skin. I hissed. "Sorry." Kyujin's hand steadied my good shoulder, thumb pressing just above my collarbone. The touch burned. Behind me, Ihyun cleaned the wound with careful precision, but his other hand rested against my bare back. Steady, warm, unnecessary. My breathing went shallow. "It's healing faster than it should," Eon murmured, fingers tracing the edge of torn skin. "Omega biology," Kyujin added quietly, eyes locked on mine. "Don't call me that. It's what you are." Eon's breath ghosted across the back of my neck, and I shivered. "Our mate. You're nothing to me." "Liar." Kyujin's hand slid from my shoulder to my jaw, tilting my face up. "Your scent gives you away. Let go. Tell me you don't feel this." His thumb traced my cheekbone, and my eyes fluttered closed against my will. "Tell me the bond isn't tearing you apart the same way it's destroying us." I couldn't. Eon's hands moved to my waist, steadying me as he wrapped fresh bandages around my shoulder. Each pass of his fingers left fire in its wake. Each brush of contact made the bond pull tighter, a rope around my chest dragging me toward them. "We've been hunting you for months," Ihyun said, voice low. "And the entire time something felt wrong, like we were chasing the one thing we were supposed to protect." "You don't protect." My voice came out breathless. "You destroy." "Not you." Hyujin leaned closer. "Never you." The space between us disappeared to nothing. Could count his heartbeat in the pulse at his throat. Could smell cedar and smoke and something darker, richer. Could feel Eon solid and warm behind me, his chest against my back. "This is wrong," I whispered. "I know." Hyujin's forehead almost touched mine. "Tell me to stop." I should have. Should have shoved him away. Should have remembered why I came here. Why I'd spent 5 years preparing for this. His lips hovered a breath from mine. "Daishim." My name on his tongue sounded like a prayer, like a plea. I broke. My hand fisted in his shirt, pulling him the last impossible inch, and our mouths collided. The bond detonated. Heat flooded through me so fast it stole the air from my lungs. Kyujin kissed me like I was oxygen, and he'd been drowning, one hand tangling in my hair, the other gripping my waist. I gasped against his mouth, and he deepened the kiss, tongue sliding past my lips. Behind me, Ihyun's mouth found the curve of my neck. Not biting, just lips and breath, and the ghost of teeth against my scent gland. My back arched involuntarily, pressing into him. I moaned. The sound should have horrified me. Instead, it made Kyujin kiss me harder, swallowing every broken noise I made. His hands mapped my bare skin like he was memorizing it. Ribs, spine, the dip of my lower back. Ishun's fingers threaded through my hair from behind, tilting my head to give Kyujin better access. "You taste like rain," Kyujin breathed against my lips before kissing me again. Ihyun's hand turned my face toward him. Kyujin's mouth moved to my throat, and suddenly Ihyun was kissing me instead. Controlled, deliberate. But underneath the control, I felt the same desperate hunger, burning both of them alive. His tongue swept against mine, and I whimpered into his mouth. Kyujin's teeth grazed my pulse point, and my hands scrabbled for purchase, one fisted in Ihyun's hair, the other gripping Kyujin's shoulder hard enough to bruise. The earpiece pressed cold and accusatory against my ear. Uncle was hearing this, hearing me surrender, hearing me betray 5 years of grief and rage for a few moments of biological weakness. Reality crashed back. "Stop!" I shoved at both of them, scrambling off the chair. "Stop! I can't." "Daishim!" Kyujin reached for me. "Don't touch me." I backed toward the window, arms wrapped around myself. "Don't!" They stood slowly, flushed, breathing hard, looking at me like I just ripped something vital out of their chests. "This doesn't change anything," I said, hating how my voice shook. "You're still..." "What?" Eon's control had fractured. "Still the monsters you think we are?" "Yes." "You don't believe that." Kyujin's hands clenched at his sides. "Not anymore." "Get out." The words tasted like blood. "Please, just get out." Silence stretched between us. Then Ihyun nodded once, sharp and final. "We'll be outside if you need us." They left. The lock clicked. I stood shaking in the empty room, tasting them on my tongue, feeling their hands like scorch marks on my skin. The earpiece burned. I ripped it out and crushed it under my heel. Plastic splintered. The tiny speaker went dark. Tejun had heard everything, every moan, every surrender, every moment I chose the bond over my family's memory. Shame ignited into rage. This was exactly what he warned me about. The bond was a trap designed to make me weak, to make me forget, to turn me into their willing victim. No more. I found the marble pen holder in the desk drawer. Heavy, solid, cold against my palm. I tested the weight, the angle, pictured where I'd need to strike. They thought a few kisses made me theirs. They were wrong. I lay on the bed fully clothed, weapon hidden beneath the pillow. My lips still burned. My body still ached. I buried it all under 5 years of hate and waited. Hours crawled past. Then the lock turned. Footsteps crossed the carpet, stopping beside the bed. Someone's hand touched my shoulder, gentle, careful, like I was something precious. My fingers closed around marble. The hand moved toward my face. I struck. My eyes snapped open as the weapon arced toward Kyujin's throat. His eyes went wide. Daishim, the marble connected with flesh and bone, and Kyujin's blood painted my hands red. He made a sound, sharp, shocked, and staggered backward. The pen holder clattered to the floor as his hand pressed against his side, crimson already seeping through his fingers. Kyujin! Eon's shout tore through the room. I stood frozen, staring at what I'd done. At the blood. At Kyujin's face going pale, eyes wide with betrayal and pain. What did you do? Eon caught his twin before he collapsed, lowering him to the ground. What the fuck did you do? I couldn't answer, couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Kyujin's blood dripped onto the carpet, each drop a condemnation. Guards! Eon's voice cracked with rage. Get the doctor, now! Footsteps thundered down the hall. Hands grabbed me, rough, unforgiving, dragging me away from the twins. I didn't fight, just watched Kyujin's face contort with pain as Eon pressed down on the wound. You're our mate, Kyujin whispered, looking at me even as he bled. How could you? The guards hauled me out before he finished. The door slammed shut behind us. They threw me into a different room, smaller, no windows, reinforced door with a lock that sounded like a vault closing. The space went dark except for a single overhead light. I sank to the floor, back against cold concrete, and stared at my hands. Still red, still his. Hours crawled past, maybe days. Time meant nothing in that cell. But the bond wouldn't let me forget. Every stitch the doctor put in Kyujin's side, I felt. Every jolt of pain when he moved wrong, it echoed through my chest. The connection we shared transmitted his suffering directly into my body, and there was no escaping it. I deserved worse. Uncle's last command played on repeat in my head. Kill them both, or everything your family died for means nothing. I'd tried, and now I was drowning in the possibility that I'd just stabbed an innocent man, that everything Uncle told me was wrong, that the bond pulling me toward them wasn't a trap, but the truth I'd been running from. The earpiece was gone, crushed under my heel in the previous hours, ground into plastic shards. Uncle didn't know if I'd succeeded or failed. Didn't know I was locked in a cell, painted in my mate's blood, coming apart at the seams. For the first time in 5 years, I was completely alone. The lock turned. Eon stepped inside, closing the door behind him. No guards, just him and the cold fury radiating off him like winter frost. He'll live, he said, voice flat, final. No thanks to you. The blade missed anything vital by centimeters. I couldn't look at him. Look at me. I didn't. He crossed the space in 2 strides, gripped my jaw, and forced my head up. His eyes burned with controlled rage. Tell me why, he said. Tell me why you tried to murder your own mate. The words ripped out of me. Because you killed my family. We didn't. Your father did, your empire. Your network, my voice broke. My uncle told me. He saved me from the fire. He raised me. Your uncle. Ihyon's grip loosened slightly. Kang Taejun? I nodded. Tell me what happened. All of it. So I did. Uncle pulling me from the flames, holding me while I broke, whispering in my ear that the Yoons did this, that I should never forget, never forgive. 5 years of training, 5 years of rage carefully cultivated into a weapon. When I finished, Ihyun was silent for a long moment. You said our father ordered the massacre 5 years ago. That's what Uncle told me. The Kang family. Your father was Kang Minjun. Yes. His expression shifted. Something calculating flickered behind the anger. That doesn't make sense. What? Why would our father destroy an entire Pack family? He released my jaw, stepping back. What strategic gain was there? The Kang Pack controlled territory in Koreatown, but they weren't a threat. If anything, they were potential allies. Maybe he wanted their territory. Then he would have negotiated or intimidated, not massacred. Eon's eyes narrowed. Our father was ruthless, but he was calculated. Burning an entire family alive draws attention, creates enemies, destabilizes the region. He paused. It makes no sense. Hope, dangerous, fragile, stirred in my chest. You're saying he didn't do it? I'm saying I'm going to find out. He moved toward the door, then stopped. And you're coming with me. Guards flanked me as Ian led us through the compound, down into a basement level I hadn't seen before. The air grew colder. The walls older. He unlocked a heavy door, revealing an archive. Filing cabinets lined every wall, documents stacked in precise order. Our father kept records of everything, Ian said, pulling files. Every deal, every alliance, every threat. He spread documents across a metal table. I recognized the Kang family name immediately. Here, he pointed to a folder dated 6 years ago. Negotiation documents. Your father and mine were in talks to form a partnership, combining Kang's Koreatown influence with our port access. I stared at the papers, at my father's signature next to the Yoon seal. They were allies, Ihyun continued, not enemies. Then why? Keep looking. We dug deeper. Hours passed. My hands trembled as I sorted through my family's name, written again and again in clinical business terms. Then Ihyun went rigid. What is it? He pulled out a sealed folder, breaking the wax carefully. Inside, age documents, ceremonial records. A mate ritual, he said quietly, performed decades ago when Kyujin and I were born. My breath caught. He read aloud. A seer was consulted to divine the fated mate of the Yoon heirs. His finger traced down the page. The prophecy states, fated mate will come from the Kang bloodline. The room tilted. Our father knew, Eun continued, voice tight. He knew our mate would be a Kang, which means he wouldn't kill them, I finished. He'd be destroying your future. Exactly. He flipped to the ceremony guest list. His face went cold. Who else was at this ritual? His finger stopped on a name. Kang Taejun. The world stopped spinning and started falling instead. Your uncle was there, Ihyun said. He heard the prophecy. No. He knew you were destined to be our mate. No. And 5 years ago, when you were 17, I presented as Omega. The words tasted like ash. Eon's eyes met mine. He knew. And then your family died. He was already moving, pulling up records on a computer terminal in the corner. His fingers flew across the keyboard, accessing databases I didn't understand. We need Kang territory records, he muttered. Financial transactions from 5 years ago. How? Pack leaders can request formal records when investigating crimes. He kept typing. Your family's massacre was never solved. That gives us access. Files. Populated the screen. He cross-referenced them with documents from his father's archives. Then he stopped. There, he pointed. Money transfers from Kang family accounts to known contacts in our father's network, weeks before the fire. My stomach dropped. The account, he traced the digital signature. Controlled by Kang Taejun, not your father. Eon pulled up more records. Territory inheritance, business acquisitions, everything transferred to Uncle after the fire. Everything my father built, Uncle took. Motive, Ehyun said. He inherited an empire. Timeline analysis next. Security footage from that night, pulled from city cameras near the Kang estate. Uncle's car arriving just minutes after the fire started. Close enough to save me. Too far to save anyone else. Opportunity, Eon continued. He was positioned perfectly. Operational logs from the Yoon network showed the hit was ordered using insider Kang credentials. Access codes that matched Uncle's authorization. Means, Eon finished. He orchestrated everything. The evidence spread across the table like an accusation, like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. Uncle knew about the bond. Uncle saw me as a threat to his power. Uncle waited until I presented as Omega, confirming the prophecy. Then Uncle murdered everyone I loved, framed the Yoons, and raised me as a weapon to destroy my own mates. But it all still didn't make sense to me. No, the word came out broken. He saved me. He's all I have left. He's the reason you have nothing left. The door opened. Kyujin stood there, leaning heavily on the frame, bandaged, pale, moving when he shouldn't be. You should be resting, Ehyun started. Shut up. Kyujin's eyes found mine. Is it true his uncle did this? Yes. Kyujin crossed the room despite the pain etched on his face. Stood in front of me. The mate I'd stabbed hours ago. I couldn't look at him. Daisham, I shook my head. Look at me. I did, and the forgiveness in his eyes broke something inside my chest. I forgive you, he said. How? My voice cracked. Why? I stabbed you. I tried to kill you. Because you didn't know. He stepped closer. Because the person you trusted most betrayed you in the worst way possible. His hand found my face, gentle despite everything. And because you're ours, even when you tried to kill us, even when you hate us, you're still ours. I collapsed against him, and he held me despite the wound, despite the pain I'd caused. He'll come for me, I whispered against Kyujin's shoulder. Uncle, I didn't return to the safe house. He'll think I failed or got captured. Good, Ihyun said. Let him come. He trained me. He knows how I think, how I fight. But he doesn't know we know the truth, Ihyun added, voice cold. He thinks you still believe his lies. He thinks we're still your enemies. That's our advantage. When he comes to extract you or eliminate witnesses, Kyujin continued, he'll walk right into a trap. You're with us tonight, Ihyun said, grip firm on my arm. No arguments. Kyujin flanked my other side despite his bandaged wound, and together they guided me out of the archives, through hallways I barely registered, until we reached a door I'd never seen. Their private quarters. The space beyond was dark wood and leather, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Los Angeles, sprawling below in electric constellations. A massive bed dominated one wall. Everything smelled like them, cedar and smoke and something richer that made my knees weak. The door locked behind us. You're still covered in blood, Kyujin said quietly. Come on. The bathroom was marble and glass, steam already rising as Ihyun turned on the shower. Water cascaded from rainfall heads, filling the space with heat. Get in, Kyujin said. I can do it myself. We know. Ihyun's eyes met mine. Get in anyway. I stripped with shaking hands. So did they. And when we stepped under the water together, the bond roared to life so fiercely I gasped. Kyujin's hands found my shoulders, washing away his own blood with careful touches that burned everywhere they landed. Ihyun stood behind me, fingers working through my hair, and the scent of all three of us mixing in the steam made my head spin. I can feel you, I whispered, under my skin. It's driving me crazy. Good. Kyujin tilted my chin up. Water ran between us. Because you're driving us insane too. His mouth found mine. The kiss tasted like water and need in 5 years of fighting something inevitable. His tongue swept past my lips, claiming, and I opened for him like I'd been waiting my whole life for this. Behind me, Ihyun's teeth grazed my shoulder, not biting yet, just pressure and promise. We can stop, Ihyun said against my skin. If you want to stop, we will. Don't stop, my voice broke. Please don't stop. Kyujin's hands tightened on my waist, pulling me flush against him. Say it again. I want this. I turned my head, finding Ihyun's mouth. I want you, both of you. Control shattered. We stumbled from the shower to the bed, still wet, hands and mouths desperate. I fell backward onto dark sheets with Kyujin above me and Ihyun beside me, both of them looking at me like I was something precious and breakable, and theirs. You're ours now, Kyujin said, voice rough. Say it. I'm yours. Again. I'm yours. My breath hitched as Ihyun's hand traced down my side. I've always been yours. Heat flooded through me. Omega biology responding to my alphas with a ferocity I'd suppressed for 5 years. Fever burned under my skin. Slicks started, embarrassing and undeniable. My scent sweetened the air, and both twins groaned. You smell like rain and something sweeter, Kyujin breathed against my throat. Like coming home. Ihyun's mouth found my chest, tongue tracing patterns that made me arch. Kyujin's teeth grazed the scent gland on the left side of my neck. Not biting, not, yet but the promise of it made me whimper. Tell us what you need, Ihyun murmured. You. I couldn't think past the bond screaming for completion. I need you, both of you, please. They moved together like they shared one mind. Kyujin positioned himself above me while Ihyun's hands mapped every inch of my body, learning me, claiming me. When Kyujin finally pushed inside, I cried out, overwhelmed, complete. The bond sang, Ihyun's mouth claimed mine while Kyujin set a rhythm that erased every thought beyond this, beyond us, beyond the three of us becoming something permanent and unbreakable. Mark me, I gasped between kisses. Please, I need... Kyujin's teeth sank into the left side of my neck. Pain and pleasure detonated simultaneously. The mating mark seared into my skin, into my soul, binding us together in a way that transcended biology. I could feel him, his desire, his fierce protectiveness, his love crashing through the bond like a wave. Before I could process, Ideon turned my face toward him. My turn, he said and bit down on the right side of my neck. The second mark completed the circuit. Both of them flooded through me. Thoughts, emotions, sensations layering over my own until I couldn't tell where I ended and they began. The bond locked into place, permanent and searing. Now you, Kyujin said, baring his throat, claim us back. I bit down on his neck, tasting copper and salt in him. His pleasure slammed into me through the bond, amplifying my own until I couldn't breathe. Then Hyun offered his throat, and I marked him too, sealing the three of us together. The world went white. When I came back to myself, I was tangled between them, all of us marked and mated and complete. The bond hummed steady and strong, a constant presence connecting our hearts. I can feel you, I whispered in awe. Both of you, everywhere. And we feel you. Kyujin's fingers traced the fresh mark on my neck with reverence. Always, Ihyun. Pulled me closer, careful of Kyujin's wound on my other side. You're packed now. Family. Tears slipped down my face. My family would want you to live, Kyujin said softly. To be happy, to be loved. We'll honor them, Iyon added, by being everything Taejun tried to prevent. I turned my face into Kyujin's shoulder, and he held me while I cried for the second time that day. But these tears weren't just grief. They were release, acceptance, the beginning of healing. We lay there tangled together, learning the new rhythm of the bond, feeling each other's presence like a constant warmth in our chests. I could sense Kyujin's contentment despite his wound, could feel Ihyun's fierce protectiveness wrapping around both of us. For the first time in 5 years, I felt safe. Then Ihyun's phone buzzed on the nightstand. The sound shattered our peace like glass. He reached for it, frowning at the screen. Security alert. Kyujin tensed beside me. What kind? Someone. Spotted near the compound perimeter. Ihyun's eyes went cold as he read. Asking questions in Koreatown. About Daishim. My blood turned to ice. Show me. Ihyun pulled up surveillance footage on his phone. The image was grainy but clear enough. Uncle Taejun standing outside a restaurant 2 blocks from the compound, talking to someone who worked there. The timestamp read 20 minutes ago. He knows where I am, I whispered. He's been searching since you didn't return to the safe house, Ihyun said. And he just found someone who saw us bring you here. Kyujin sat up despite his injury. How long? He's already in the area. Ihyun's jaw tightened. Maybe an hour, maybe less. Reality crashed back, cold and brutal. Ihyun was already pulling on clothes. Kyujin and I followed, moving in sync. The bond hummed between us as we dressed, silent and focused. A knock at the door. One of the guards stood in the hallway. Sirs, we have a visitor at the front gate. Kang-yi, Taejun, he's asking for his nephew. Search him, Ihyun said. Thoroughly. Then escort him to the main hall. Yes, sir. We moved downstairs together, the fresh mating marks visible on all 3 of our necks. My heart pounded against my ribs, but the bond steadied me. I could feel Kyujin's determination despite his pain. Could feel Ihyun's cold calculation. The front doors opened. Uncle Taejun walked in, flanked by 2 guards who'd patted him down at the gate. No weapons, no backup, just him and the lies he'd built his empire on. His eyes found me immediately, then traveled to Kyujin and Ihyun flanking me. Then he saw the marks, fresh, red, unmistakable mating bites on both sides of my neck, on both twins' throats. His face went blank, then twisted with something dark and violent. Daishima, he said softly, too softly. What have you done? I stepped forward. The bond thrummed through me, giving me strength I'd never had alone. I found out the truth, Samshun. Said, all of it. The truth. His laugh was bitter. They filled your head with lies. You killed my family. Silence fell like a blade. You attended the mate ritual 24 years ago, I continued. You knew I was destined to be their mate. You knew, and you murdered my parents, my sister, everyone. Then you raised me to be your weapon against them. I saved you. You made me an orphan so you could use me. His expression cracked. Rage bled through the careful mask he'd worn for 5 years. You were supposed to kill them, he snarled, not spread your legs for them like some desperate whore. The bond flared hot with Kyujin's rage, but Ion's hand on his shoulder held him back. I stepped forward instead. I'm not your weapon anymore. You're nothing without me. His voice dropped to something cold and deadly. I made you, I shaped you, and I can unmake you. He moved, fast, faster than I expected. His hand shot out, grabbing my throat, using me as a shield between him and the twins. Stay back, he hissed at them, fingers tightening around my windpipe. Or I snap his neck. His fingers tightened around my throat, and I knew what it felt like to be a weapon turned against its maker. Stay back, Uncle hissed at the twins, using me as a shield. Or I snap his neck right here. Kyujin and Ion froze mid-step. The bond screamed between us, their rage, their terror, their helplessness crashing into me like waves. Let him go. Ion's voice was cold, controlled, but I could feel the fury underneath, barely leashed. Why would I do that? Uncle dragged me backward toward the entrance, fingers pressing harder against my windpipe. He's the only leverage I have. Guards lined the walls, weapons drawn, but none of them moved. One wrong step and Uncle would kill me before anyone could stop him. You think discovering the truth changes anything? Uncle's laugh was bitter against my ear. You've played right into my hands for 5 years. What are you talking about? Kyujin's hands clenched into fists. The bond. Uncle's grip shifted, arm locked. Across my throat now. I didn't just know Daishin was your mate. I weaponized it. Through the bond, I felt the twins' understanding dawn, cold and horrifying. Think about it, Uncle continued, voice almost conversational. I had 2 possible outcomes. Either Daishim kills you both, which eliminates my rivals and destroys him in the process when he realizes what he's done to his own mates. He paused. Or you kill him first, and the mate bond drives you insane with grief and guilt for murdering your destined Omega. You're insane, Kyujin growled. I'm a strategist. Uncle's arm tightened. Either way, all 3 of you are destroyed, broken beyond repair, and I take control of both territories. Kang and Yoon. All of Los Angeles under my command. The room went silent except for my struggling breaths. The bond was supposed to be your destruction, he said, not your salvation. You weren't supposed to complete it. You were supposed to tear each other apart. But we didn't. Aihyun's eyes locked on mine across the distance. We chose each other. Yes, you surprised me. Uncle's tone shifted, colder. I underestimated how stubborn you'd all be. But it doesn't matter now. Doesn't matter? Kyujin's voice was low, dangerous. I've spent 5 years building my own power base while you 3 stumbled toward each other. Uncle dragged me another step back. Allies in other packs, control of Kang territory, resources you can't imagine. I don't need you to destroy each other anymore. What are you saying? Ihyan's muscles coiled. I'm saying I'll just kill all 3 of you myself. Uncle's breath was hot against my ear. And take what I want by force. You won't make it out of this building alive, Kyujin said. Maybe not. Uncle's voice dropped. But neither will he. Through the bond, I felt their calculations. Too far away. Uncle too unpredictable. One wrong move and I'd be dead. I had to do something. My hand moved slowly toward my lower back, where the hidden blade pressed against my spine. I'd grabbed it during the chaos upstairs. Old instinct, muscle memory from 5 years of training. Uncle was too focused on the twins to notice. You raised me on lies. My voice came out rough, choked, held me while I cried for the family you murdered. And it was satisfying every single time. His words were poison. Watching you trust me, depend on me, believe everything I told you. He leaned closer. You were never my nephew, Daishim. You were a tool I forged, a weapon I aimed at your own mates. Nothing more. Something inside me shattered, but my fingers closed around the blade's handle. Through the bond, I felt Ihyun sense my intention. His eyes flicked to my hand for the briefest moment, then back to Uncle. Understanding passed between us without words. Do you know what the best part was? Uncle's grip loosened just slightly, caught up in his own victory. Watching you become exactly what I needed. Ruthless. Determined. Willing to kill without hesitation. You're right. I tightened my grip on the blade. You taught me well. I twisted hard in his grip, pulled the weapon free, and drove it into his side with everything I had. Uncle gasped. His arm fell away from my throat as his hand went to the wound. Blood bloomed across his white shirt, spreading fast. I stumbled forward, trying to reach the twins. Uncle's hand shot out, faster than someone bleeding should move. He grabbed my shoulder, yanked me back with brutal force. You ungrateful little... His hands found both sides of my head. Through the bond, I felt the twins scream. Felt them surge forward, desperation and terror flooding the connection. Too late. Uncle twisted, sharp, violent, vicious. The crack echoed through the hall like a gunshot. Everything below my neck stopped working. I hit the marble floor hard, vision spinning, chest trying to pull in air that wouldn't come right. My body sprawled at an angle I couldn't fix, couldn't adjust. Can't move my arms, can't move my legs, can't turn my head. Paralyzed. Trapped inside a body that wouldn't respond. Through the bond, I felt them break. Kyujin's roar tore through the space. Inhuman, primal, pure alpha rage. His body shifted mid-lunge. Bones cracking, claws extending. Eyes flooding gold as the wolf took over. Eon moved like a shadow given form. Silent, lethal, faster than anything human had a right to be. Uncle tried to grab me again, use me as a shield. They were already on him. Kyujin's claws tore into flesh. The wet, brutal sound of it filled my ears. Uncle screamed, trying to fight back, landing blows that should have stopped them. But they were past pain, past reason, just instinct and fury, and the desperate need to destroy the thing that hurt their mate. Ihyun's hands found Uncle's throat. Squeezed. I heard Uncle choking, thrashing, but Ihyun's grip didn't loosen. I couldn't turn my head to see. Could only stare at the ceiling, chest burning, lungs struggling. But through the bond, I felt everything. Kyujin's savage satisfaction as claws found soft tissue. Ihyun's cold, methodical violence as he broke bone after bone. Uncle's desperate attempts to escape, weakening with every second. Blood spattered across the floor near my face. Warm, dark. Furniture shattered somewhere behind me. Guards were shouting, but their voices sounded distant, muffled. My vision started to blur at the edges. Can't breathe right, chest too tight, air coming in shallow, wrong. Tried to move my fingers. Nothing happened. Tried to speak. No sound came out. The bond flickered like a candle in the wind. I'm still here, I wanted to scream. I'm still alive. I can hear you. Please. Through the connection, I felt the moment Ihyun's hands finally crushed something vital. Uncle's resistance stopped. His body went limp. Dead. Silence fell except for Kyujin's ragged breathing. Then they were beside me. Kyujin's, hands on my face, blood spattered, shaking. Daishim, Daishim, stay with us. Ihyun's hand pressed against my chest, checking for breathing, for heartbeat. His neck is broken. He's not getting enough air. I wanted to tell them I could hear, wanted to say I was still here, still fighting, but my body wouldn't obey. Vision darkening, sounds becoming distant, the bond starting to fade. Kyujin's face above me, streaked with blood and tears. Don't you fucking dare leave us. Eon's voice cut through, sharp with command. Someone get the doctor. Now, move. I tried to hold on, tried to stay, but the darkness was pulling me under like a riptide. Last thing I felt through the bond, their terror, their love, their desperate, aching need for me to survive. Last thought before everything went black. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough. Then nothing. Silence. Gone. I woke up in a body that no longer belonged to me. White ceiling, fluorescent lights, the steady beep of monitors, a tube down my throat, making it impossible to breathe right, impossible to scream. I tried to move my hand. Nothing. Tried to shift my legs. Nothing. Panic slammed into me. I tried to sit up, tried to do anything, but my body wouldn't respond, wouldn't move, wouldn't. He's awake. Kyujin's voice, rough and broken. Ihyun, he's awake. Their faces appeared above me, exhausted, hollow-eyed, still wearing clothes stained with dried blood. They'd been here the whole time. Kyujin grabbed my hand. I couldn't feel it. A doctor appeared, checked monitors, said something I couldn't process through the rising terror. Then hands were at my throat, removing the tube. I gagged, choked, finally pulled in air that burned. I can't move, I rasped. First words. Only words that mattered. The twins' faces told me everything before the doctor opened his mouth. Mr. Kang, the doctor said, voice professionally gentle. You sustained a cervical spinal cord injury. The vertebrae at C4, C5 were fractured when your neck was broken. We stabilized the damage surgically, but the spinal cord itself was severed. The room tilted. You're paralyzed from the neck down, he continued. Quadriplegic. You'll regain some respiratory function with therapy, but your limbs, your torso, there's no current medical treatment that can repair this level of damage. Permanent? The word tasted like ash. I'm sorry. Yes. Silence fell like a guillotine. I looked at the twins, saw the devastation they were trying to hide, saw the determination burning underneath. We'll take care of you, Ihyun said immediately, voice steady despite the bond screaming with his grief. Whatever it takes. We're not giving up, Kyujin added. His hand was still holding mine. I still couldn't feel it. There are specialists, experimental treatments. We'll find something. But the doctor's expression said what they wouldn't accept. There was nothing. 3 weeks passed in a blur of white walls and failed hope. They moved me out of ICU into a specialized care unit, removed the breathing tube permanently once my diaphragm remembered how to function, taught me how to use a voice-activated wheelchair. I'd never be able to control myself. I could move my head, could speak, though it took effort, could breathe on my own most of the time. Everything else was gone. I couldn't feed myself, couldn't bathe myself, couldn't turn over in bed without help, couldn't scratch an itch or wipe my own face, or do any of the 1,000 tiny things that made someone whole. The twins did everything. Ion hired the best nurses money could buy, then fired them all because he refused to let strangers touch me. Kyujin learned how to operate every piece of medical equipment, how to prevent bed sores, how to help me eat without choking. They brought in specialists from across the country, Tokyo, London, Switzerland. Every single one said the same thing. No cure, no treatment, no hope. I watched their faces after each consultation, watched the light dim a little more each time, watched them refuse to give up even as the weight of reality crushed them. Ihyun stopped going to pack meetings, let his second-in-command handle everything while he researched experimental stem cell treatments that wouldn't work. Kyujin's wound from when I'd stabbed him never healed right. He ignored it, too focused on me to care about himself. Through the bond, I felt everything. Their exhaustion, their fear, their desperate, aching determination to save me even as I drowned. We're looking into a trial in Germany, Ion said one afternoon, sitting beside my bed with his laptop. Spinal regeneration using... Stop. He looked up, surprised. Just stop, I said. Please. Daishim, there's no cure. My voice came out flat, dead. You've heard it from 20 different doctors. This is permanent. We don't accept that, Kyujin said from the doorway. You don't have a choice. I stared at the ceiling because I couldn't turn away, couldn't move, couldn't do anything. I'm paralyzed. I'll be paralyzed for the rest of my life. And you're wasting yours trying to fix something that can't be fixed. You're our mate, Ihyun said. We're not wasting anything. Look at yourselves. Anger bled into my voice. When's the last time you slept? When's the last time you left this hospital? You've abandoned everything. The pack, your lives, your future, to take care of someone who can't even wipe his own face. We don't care, Kyujin said. I do. The words ripped out of me. I care that you're destroying yourselves. I care that I'm the reason you're trapped in this room, in this life, with no way out. There is a way out, Ihyun said quietly. We'll find it. You won't. I forced myself to meet his eyes. And even if you could, what then? Best case scenario, I'm paralyzed in a wheelchair instead of paralyzed in a bed. I'm still completely dependent, still a burden you'll carry until one of us dies. The bond flared with their pain. "You're not a burden," Kyujin said, voice breaking. "I'm nothing else." The truth sat heavy on my chest. I can't fight, can't work, can't even hold your hand when you're falling apart. I'm just a body you have to keep alive because the bond won't let you walk away. "We don't want to walk away," Eon said. "That's the problem." I closed my eyes. "You should want to. You should leave. Find someone who can actually be your mate, not just a broken thing you have to feed and bathe and watch suffer." "Don't say that." Kyujin moved to the bed, hand on my shoulder. I couldn't feel it. "Don't ever say that." "It's true." I opened my eyes, looked at both of them. "Let me go." Silence. "What?" Aeon's voice was barely a whisper. "Let me go," I repeated. "Reject the bond. Walk away. Let me die with whatever dignity I have left." "No." Kyujin's response was immediate, absolute. "Please." I hated how my voice broke. "I'm begging you. This isn't living. This is torture. For all of us." "We're not losing you," Aeon said. "You already did." Tears slipped down my face. I couldn't wipe them away. "I'm gone. This body is just a shell you're keeping alive out of obligation." "It's not obligation," Kyujin said fiercely. "It's love." "Then love me enough to let me go." "Never." Eon stood, moved to the other side of the bed. "We're bonded, mated. You're ours and we're yours, and nothing, not this injury, not your fear, not anything, will make us leave. Even if I want you to?" "Even then." I stared at them, saw the immovable determination in their faces, felt it through the bond, solid as stone, unshakable. They wouldn't let me go, no matter what I said, no matter how much I begged. "You're condemning us all to this," I whispered. "Then we'll be condemned." "Together," Kyujin said. The argument died in my throat. What else could I say? I was paralyzed, helpless, completely at their mercy. I couldn't leave, couldn't even move myself to the window, couldn't do anything except lie here and watch them sacrifice everything. "I need to be alone," I said finally. They hesitated. "Please," I added, "just for a while." Reluctantly, they left, but I felt them through the bond, standing just outside the door, refusing to go far. I stared at the ceiling, trapped in a body that didn't work, bound to mates who wouldn't let go. No escape, no hope, no way out. The bond pulsed steady between us, constant, unbreakable, a chain I'd never asked for and couldn't remove. They'd take care of me forever, watch me waste away, grow old caring for someone who couldn't care for himself, and I'd have to watch them suffer, every single day, for the rest of my life. There has to be a way out, I thought, even if they won't let me go, even if I have to find it myself. It took 3 weeks of begging before they finally broke. 3 weeks of me asking, pleading, explaining why living like this was torture. 3 weeks of watching them refuse, insist, promise they'd find a way to fix what couldn't be fixed. 3 weeks of all of us drowning. Kyujin broke first. I saw it happen. Saw the exact moment his resolve shattered while he was helping me eat dinner, carefully spooning soup into my mouth because my hands would never work again. "Okay," he whispered, setting the spoon down with shaking fingers. "Okay." Ihyan looked up from his laptop, where he'd been researching another experimental treatment that wouldn't work. "What?" "He's right." Kyujin's voice cracked. "We're not helping him. We're just prolonging his suffering because we're too selfish to let go." Silence fell heavy between us. "Ihyan," I said quietly. "Please." He stared at me for a long moment. Then his shoulders slumped. The weight of 3 weeks finally crushing the last of his resistance. "Okay," he said. "We'll let you go." Relief flooded through me so strong it felt like drowning and surfacing at the same time. "But we need time," Kyujin added quickly. "A few days, to say goodbye properly." I nodded. That was fair. That was more than fair. "A few days," I agreed. They moved me out of the hospital the next morning, brought me home to the compound in the Hollywood Hills, to their bedroom with the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Los Angeles. Medical equipment followed, monitors, wheelchair, everything I needed to stay alive a little longer. The first day, they took me to the overlook above the city. Kyujin carried me to the wheelchair. I still couldn't feel his arms around me, but I watched his face, memorized the way he held me like I was something precious. Eon pushed the chair to the edge of the terrace, where the lights of LA spread out below like fallen stars. I used to come here, I said, watching the city breathe. Before, when Uncle would let me out of the safe house for a few hours. What did you think about? Eon asked. How small I was. How big the world was. I paused. How I'd never really be part of it. You were always part of it, Kujin said softly. You just didn't know it yet. We stayed until the sun set and the city lights brightened, and for the first time in weeks I felt something other than despair. The second day they took me to Koreatown, the streets where my family used to live, where my father ran his businesses, where my mother bought groceries and my sister went to school, and everything was normal before it all burned down. There, I nodded toward a small restaurant. My mother loved their kimchi jjigae. We'd go every Sunday after church. Eon pushed the chair closer. Through the window, I could see families eating together, laughing, living. Tell us about her, Kujin said. So I did. Told them about my mother's laugh, my father's terrible jokes, the way Nari would steal food off my plate when she thought I wasn't looking. Told them about the life I had before Uncle took it all away. They listened, asked questions, helped me remember the good instead of just the grief. When we left, I realized I was crying. Kujin wiped my face gently. Thank you, I whispered. The third day we stayed home, just the three of us in their bedroom, talking about everything and nothing. They told me about growing up under their father's shadow, about the pressure to be perfect, to be strong, to never show weakness. We were so afraid of the bond when we first felt it, Ihyun admitted, afraid it would make us weak. Did it? I asked. No. Kujin's hand rested on my shoulder. I couldn't feel it, but I could see it. It made us human. That night, they brought me to bed between them, held me even though I couldn't feel their warmth, whispered things they'd been too afraid to say before. I love you, Kujin said against my hair. I'm sorry I couldn't be the mate you deserved, I replied. You were exactly who we needed, Eon said, even when you were trying to kill us. I laughed. Actually laughed. It felt like a gift. We fell asleep like that, tangled together, the bond humming steady between us for the last time. The next morning the doctor arrived. Yeon and Kujin helped me into clean clothes. Nothing medical, nothing clinical. Just soft cotton that didn't matter because I couldn't feel it anyway. We sat in the bedroom, morning light streaming through the windows. Before we proceed, the doctor said gently, we need to address the bond. I knew. We all knew. If they stayed bonded to me when I died, it would kill them too. Or worse, drive them insane with the severed connection, leave them broken and suffering for the rest of their lives. The bond had to be rejected. First, how does it work? Kujin asked, voice tight. It's a verbal ritual, the doctor explained. Mutual rejection and acceptance. It will sever the connection completely. Ehyun's hand found mine. I still couldn't feel it. Are you ready? He asked me. No. Yes. I didn't know. I'm ready, I said anyway. We faced each other, as much as I could face them, confined to the chair. The bond pulsed between us, steady and strong, and soon to be gone. I, Kang Daeshim, I began, voice shaking. Reject this bond. Pain flared immediately, not physical, deeper, like something vital was being torn from my soul. We, Yoon Ihyun and Yoon Kujin, they said together, accept your rejection and release you. The bond ripped apart. I gasped. They did too. It felt like dying, like something essential was being carved out of my chest and thrown away. Then silence, emptiness where the connection used to be. No more feeling their emotions. No more sensing their presence, just absence. Kujin's face was wet with tears. So was Ehyun's. So was mine. I can't feel you anymore, I whispered. I know. Ehyun's voice broke. But we're still here. They moved me to the bed, positioned me between them one last time, hands holding mine even though I couldn't feel their touch. The doctor prepared the medication, explained what would happen. Peaceful, painless, like falling asleep. Are you certain? He asked me. I'm certain. He inserted the IV. Asked one more time. I nodded. Any final words? Ehyun asked quietly. Thank you, I said, looking between them. For fighting for me, for loving me, for finally letting me go. We love you, Kyujin said, tears streaming. We'll always love you. Rest now, Yeon added. You're free. The doctor pressed the plunger. Warmth spread through the IV line. Not warmth I could feel, but warmth I knew was there. Drowsiness followed, heavy and gentle. I looked at them one last time, memorized their faces. The way Kyujin's hand gripped mine like he could keep me here through will alone. The way Ihyun's control had finally, completely shattered. I'm not afraid, I whispered. And I wasn't. My eyes grew heavy. The room started to blur. Their voices became distant, soft. I thought about my family, wondered if I'd see them again, hoped they'd forgive me for giving up. I thought about Uncle, hoped he was burning somewhere I'd never have to see. I thought about the bond that had brought us together and the choice that was setting us free. My breathing slowed. The world faded. Darkness came, gentle and welcoming. And for the first time in 5 years, I felt peace. Then nothing. The end. Sometimes the cruelest lies come from those we trust most. Sometimes love means letting go. If this story moved you, if you felt Daishim's pain, the twins' impossible choice, or the weight of a bond that became both salvation and curse, don't let it end here. Hit subscribe, like, and comment. Because stories like this, raw, honest, and unafraid to break your heart, deserve to be heard. And maybe, just maybe, you need to hear them. What would you have chosen? Tell me in the comments below.